Hi, my name's Bob Greenyer and I'm a volunteer with the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. So welcome this Easter Sunday, 31st of March 2024, to this O-Day, not so strange anymore. Can everyone hear me? Thank you, Tony Yaboni, for confirming that. Hi Livnik, hi Sonnymod, hi Regal Thurston, hi Gordon Doherty, Laura, hi, yes, you're here, Matthew Reynolds, Daz Bazaz, Bo Sinclair, Misunderstood, Phil Dubois, good to have you here, Ken Pratt, Josh S, Rennie van der Wold, Yin Gazda from Austria, great to have you here, sadly not in the room this time, but great to have you join us in the stream. Hi to my news, per Nicola Hochland. It's great to have such a quorum here in the room. So what you are looking at on the screen is, in my view, a very, very nice example of a yin and a yang pair. They are a couple, and you can see in them they have a yin and a yang. And if I just drop this over here, I will be able to show you what I mean if it's not obvious to those that are looking at it on the screen. So just give me a second. Where did I put that? There we go. Right. I'm going to do this. And we will go play. Right. So I'm going to switch over here. And if you can see on the left-hand side, it is going that way round in the vortex, and on the right hand side is going that way round on the vortex. So we have a left and a right vortex, and one is the yin and one is the yang, and in each of those they have a yin and a yang and a yin and a yang. So NG, you were not too late. Hi Cody Taylor, hi Will K, hi Claire Westwood and D2105K. Hi Louis Navarro. Oh, wow, we've got a really good quorum here, so that's nice to know. So how is everyone this beautiful day? I had the pleasure of spending time in the forest, breathing the air and the spring bird song and looking at the blossoms and the forest flowers. It was really lovely with my children. It reminds you of the new birth, the arising that this day also represents for those who celebrate the Christian faith. Of course, in my view, Chi Rho, 2 letters in the Greek alphabet, were given rightly to whoever the character Jesus was, because he clearly understood how things work. And the Coptic Christians became Coptic Christians because they could see the truth in his word, and they took on his learning and combined it with the Egyptian learning, and we've learned a lot from that artwork in stele in the course of this process. I would never have imagined that I would see something so clear, and for those that have been looking at the deep zoom image that I shared that was taken this week, I will probably do a review of that as a recording, and I encourage anyone out there to see if they can see some interesting things going on there. I've already identified quite a lot of really interesting phenomena going on in there, and I would like to give credit to other people for observing them first. So knock yourselves out. I do know that quite a few of you have downloaded it, and that spans a good proportion of the continent. So there's a really good quorum of people out there that have downloaded it and are looking at it. Okay, so I asked you to look at a bunch of presentations, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at a few of those now, and then I've got a 33-minute recording. Of course, it would be 33 minutes to share with you today that I took earlier in the week of, for me, something which absolutely, completely nails the phenomena of strange radiation as being the phenomena of ball lightning. I've already explained in the past what I thought was going on with various things that we saw in various different systems. But I think this kind of all brings it all together. It also explains natural ball lightning observations, in my view. I think this is becoming demystified, and it's not so strange anymore. And it is clearly, in my view, becoming a science, and a science that hopefully, with the learning today, and combined with what people have said in the past, which I've reiterated to you, I think we can learn to employ these little creatures safely, understand what they like, what they don't like, and how to make the most of this wonderful gift of nature. So, without further ado, I will show you this frame, which is from a presentation many moons ago called Fractal Toroidal Moment-Induced Transformation Reactions, a coherent matter-driven process. Okay, so what do I mean by coherent matter? I mean it's all in phase, and it's all in the same de Broglie wavelength, and it's occupying the same space-time. Now, if that is in a soliton or a fractal soliton, then it's a fractal toroidal structure, and that exhibits a fractal toroidal moment, but that is still coherent matter, and it is a wave. It's a standing wave in its own right, although it's a highly complex standing wave, or a highly complex cluster of standing waves that is its own entity and has its own relationship with its surroundings, and it can interact with the matter in its surroundings, but it's still a stable or quasi-stable structure. When that is moving, this coherent matter, then it is a wave, a standing wave, that is comprised of coherent matter that is traveling. And therefore, I called it a coherent matter traveling wave. When that coherent matter traveling wave, for whatever reason, decides to collapse, it can leave the material that is in it. Or, in addition, it can capture material, interact with the material, and spit it out. And the first time I discussed the latter was in my Sochi presentation, which was in October 2018. And that was the very first time I shared about a third of the O-Day initial slide deck. And so I will just queue up that particular clip. I think it's appropriate to do that now. And then we'll go through a whole bunch of other little presentations, discuss some things around it, and then I will play this 33-minute clip that was taken this week. There are other examples, and I am sure with more time we will find many examples, but for me, this, along with some other things that I saw, is sufficient to set this to bed. I may be wrong, but certainly the stars are aligning. So just give me a second and I will queue up that video. Nearly there. Nearly there. Okay, so if you recall, this is the one where I used these symbols on there. And for me, this back in January of 2018 was really a guide stone, as one might call it. And this is carved on rocks all over northern Italy, and it's something like a 2,000-year-old solar cult. Apparently, this symbol is how the sun works. And you can see that it has a yin-yang, a yin-yang, and yin-yang, and a yin-yang, and a spot. Okay? So for me, this is effectively the structure of a auspicious symbol. And so you have a torus here, which must be made of 2 torus, a minimum. And 4 of those make another torus, which makes a beam that comes down. So this is in itself a fractal torus. And this one down here is on Il Clément. They've got a replacement there. The other one, I think, the original is in a museum. And I laid to rest my grandmother a few hundred meters from this at the request of my family. So, her ashes, rather. And so, yes, these are supposedly some sun-worshipping cult, according to Wikipedia. Now, what I'm going to talk about, or rather here, is, if I can find it, maybe I can find it, maybe I can't find it. We'll see. Oh, you were seeing something else? You're hearing. Yeah, it's kind of like a quad wind hex system. I need to find out what's going on with the audio here because it's playing something in the background. Let me see where that's coming from. That, and that can go away then. Okay, all right. Now, if I share, this is going to work. I need Google Chrome, and then hopefully when I patch this through, it's going to work. Let's see. Right. Give me a sec. I should have queued this up. I've got an advert there. We'll kill that. Not very helpful. Okay, I've got it here, and I will turn on the audio. Okay, hopefully this will work. Okay, so sorry about that. Yeah, I get it. The audio is not so good on that. All right, so that's an epic fail. But anyway, what I was saying is that if I switch to here, I was saying that this is a section in one of the Lion reactor's fused quartz tubes, and it was basically sliced, and it was 20 microns wide, and it was consistent all the way along. And periodically, there was a sphere or a crystal of something left in between the crack of material that didn't look like it was from the original material. And so how I was describing it then was it was going so like it was consuming a lot, it was becoming slightly unstable, and then it was expelling the material that it had captured. So that was what I was describing there. And in the next slide, it was again on this fused quartz of Neil Krakengold's Lion reactor, or one of them. And you could see this helical pattern here cut. So you can imagine something moving along here, but something is rotating around that, and it's also consuming these lines. This was observed, later I found it was observed by Takaaki Matsumoto, and a very similar track has been observed by Dr. Alexander Parkhomov. Okay? Right, so I will go back to the other presentation that I was going to go through here. And so I talked right from the beginning in 2017, in fact, that there seemed to be a maker and a breaker. And a breaker, I think we can now understand, is actually the yang that breaks apart matter, and the maker is something that's making matter. Okay? So this is on the 1980s steel ball burn sample that we have, and you can see it here. And on the breaker side, you can see, well, I mean, it's a dirty sample, but anyway, it's this structure that is being eaten out, and they are overlaid one over the other. Okay, and so this was where I was, learning about the magnetohydrodynamic structure that could be involved with doing this kind of work. Much later in David Boutilier's Vega experiment, we saw these structures, various spiraling structures orbiting around each other. And this one here, which is very similar to the 1957 diagram of Bostic in a major peer-reviewed journal. And we talked about these things where they move around and they influence each other, but only within a small distance of each other. In a Henk-Uren Vega experiment using the Sony Alpha's huge dynamic range, we were able to capture a hemispherical ball, but be able to look inside that hemispherical ball to see that it's actually principally comprised of two separate brighter objects, and that the separate brighter objects had two sub-objects within them that were even brighter still, and they were at this very particular angle here, you can see up here. And so this really is confirming the sort of wheel within a wheel structure. And that's kind of physically seeing it represented there. So here, this particular sequence, the structures, you can see they don't care for the anode or cathode or the magnetic field created between them, but they only care for other clusters. And they seem to be influenced with something in a forward-looking beam. So for instance, this one here, on this frame, it's actually influencing this one before it gets there. And this was pretty special. So hi Coxie, hi David, Stad, Bauer, hi Daz and Akabi. Okay, so we saw these kind of structures in various Vega experiments. Again, in this one we saw it spilling its guts, and then there were two torrids of material coming out, which of course were rich in titanium, and that is a fusion of carbon and oxygen. This stream here, you can see, is predominantly carbon and oxygen with some sulfur, and then copper and zinc is the background material. So this would be, in my view, the synthesized material, and of course it's an iron-rich crenellated sphere, and the other bloom from that here is rich in titanium. So again, titanium here, and there we go. Now, the other things we're going to see influences of in what I'm going to show you, and I've discussed this before, this is a toroidal structure, and in this case, it has these regular spaced sort of filaments coming out, and they were braided pairs. And so I'm arguing that these are kind of like self-similar structures that are kind of bound onto the outside. And you can see that the outside is pure iron, and then these braided structures are iron with other materials in between. Now, at the end of this presentation, or the video that I'm going to show you of this week's session, looking at the ultrasound structure and what it did on the copper tubing of Binger and Huang, I think you're going to understand what you're going to see in the next frame, which I suggested with the same thing before, but I'm absolutely certain in my mind, although I could be wrong. Okay, so in this case, this is copper, similar to the copper pipes used by Binger and Huang, and in the next frame, it's an aluminium experiment that I ran for 90 seconds. So very short in an ultra experiment, and well done to the guy that had a go at that today. And in this 90-second ultra experiment, I put it under the SEM, and you can see this clearly is a substructure braided structure, but there is at least two orbiting structures going around creating this structure. And so whatever was created within 90 seconds interacted with this aluminium kitchen foil and touched it, and immediately and instantly, in my view, created this reorganization of the matter. And interestingly, what I identified here is that these structures are about, if you look at this, this is 30 microns, so that's 10 microns. They're a little bit like 1 or 2 microns across. And again, if you look at this 10 micron here, that's actually scaled to represent this. You can see that the scales of these are in line with this. This being in aluminium and this being in copper. So whatever did this in aluminium and this in copper, they are effectively the same kind of structures. And so very quantized across the two. And again, on a different segment of this aluminium foil done in this 90-second experiment, you can see these braided structures appearing. Okay? Again, these are scaled, that's 20 microns, that's 10 microns, but it's half the distance of that. This is effectively the same width as we have here. So this is in copper, this is in aluminium. You can see the grain here of the rolled material. And the interestingly, I think the white spots here in this cheap aluminium foil, I think these actually are something like iron. That's why they're brighter than the aluminium. But when you see this here, it's totally blended together or transmuted, whatever. Is this compressed so that this is a higher amount of iron in there, or has it captured iron and it's blending it in with the aluminium instantly? I don't know. So we are going to have a look at some more examples of these kind of things going on. Okay, so we'll have a look at the, not that. We will have a look at the coherent matter traveling waves. So in Vega, even more extraordinary traces, a catchy one, this one. I shared a bit of an analysis and a comparison between different authors. So in what you see in this particular video, captured by David Butler, thank you, David, you see an explosion, and from that explosion you see what I would argue is a coherent matter traveling wave, based on my explanation of what I mean by coherent matter traveling wave that I gave to you earlier. Okay, so here we have it, and we have a animation of it here as a GIF anim. So you see the flash, and out from the flash comes the coherent matter traveling wave. Now, I would argue that the flash is the breakdown of a larger ball lightning coherent matter structure, and this is a particle or a pair of particles that are coming out. This is in a Ken Shoulders experiment, and he's focusing in the description on the punch through of the exotic vacuum objects here. I'm more interested in this aluminium that's been instantaneously consumed and left like it was punched, like you're trying to create some punched paper to tear along, you know, like you get in receipts or something like that, receipt books or whatever. So you can see here it's blown up, and this pattern, in my view, is essentially equivalent to the one here. And so I believe that the binding energy, according to Ken Shoulders, is so strong, it's so high, that it causes novel nuclear reactions, according to Ken Shoulders. Well, whatever it's doing, it's definitely doing it very, very quickly and cutting a slice through this structure here. Likewise, similarly, in another David Butler experiment, this is 3 or 4 frames stitched together, you see an explosion. This is a breakdown of a large coherent matter structure, and the substructure is coming out. In this case, it looks like it's 3 substructures. That's a close-up, and here is the actual beam, and what you're seeing there is the path over which the coherent matter is traveling in 1/60th of a second. Sorry, 1/30th of a second. Okay, or 1/60th of a second, actually, it might be. Yeah, it's 60 frames a second. And all I've done here is I've merged those individual frames together to show the overall beam length here. Okay, and this is equivalent to an experiment by Dmitry Baranov in Russia, and you can see the same kind of track left from this bismuth experiment, and here is the impression, the cut through on the substrate. Okay, so he's showing that it's literally sliced through the substrate. In this case, it was I think it was a gold plated piece of glass, okay, and it's cut into that. Okay, so here we have a 3D representation. You're going to see something similar. You're going to see something similar from this week's SEM session. Again, we have this one here from David Butler, and we have 2 cameras on it, so you can see the same track from 2 different angles. So you get some spatial awareness. Again, you have a flash, and the 2 structures are coming out, and they have this spiral form. This is the original spiral form, and all I did was I compressed it linearly. So it just a velocity change effectively, and you get effectively the same structure that was shared at the EADS colloquium in 2010 by Claude Deviau, and it was they were exploding titanium foils, copying Leonid Uritskev. So we know Leonid Uritskev produced ball lightning. We know that ball lightning broke down into micro ball lightning. We know that it produced monopoles, and we know that it produced exotic vacuum object type comet trails, okay, and strange radiation tracks. And so here it is captured into a substrate. I think, I can't remember whether this was film or something. Maybe I've got it here. The above shows 3 dimensions of strange radiation, blah, blah, blah. I don't have the actual thing there, but you can go and look at the original material there. Okay, so this is a whole bunch of traces, and I think that we're going to have a totally understandable piece of visual that will explain precisely what's going on. Okay, now I've also talked about the UFOs over Hessdalen, and in here you can see this one here where they're looking down the valley, and there's this kind of M&M track here, okay, and it hits a treetop here, and then it kind of changes its periodicity here. But interestingly, it's broken here and it's broken here. And this is the same kind of thing that we see on these kind of traces that we observe in our strange radiation tracks. Here's one of the first examples of the crenellated sphere. This was from the ball lightning that collided in Hessdalen. These are found on crop circles. This was found in on the outside of a Lion reactor. One of these spheres was half in the fused quartz and half out, and then the other ones were out, which is surreal. It's like, so I said at the time that I think the EVO was coming out, the exotic vacuum object, this coherent matter was coming out. It got disrupted at the fused quartz boundary with the air. It didn't get disrupted on the going in, it's when it came out, and it dumped half a sphere, it dumped one sphere, and then it dumped a bit more of its payload, and it dumped a bit more of its payload. This was in a NOVA experiment, and we created these huge iron-rich crenellated spheres and lots of little ones as well. So this was actually something that I also shared in Sochi in 2018, and it was the Boson-Nova sphere slide from O-Day, the original O-Day slide deck. So there's the materials there. This was from Me 356 back in 2016, but he didn't have an EDS at the time, so he couldn't determine whether this was iron. He didn't know whether it should be iron, but this is carbon, and so it's reasonably likely that it is iron. There we go. So that was that, and obviously for me, the money shot is this kind of thing, and is very similar to strange radiation tracks, which I've probably got an example here of here. So these kind of squiggly tracks here, and this was, I think, by Savatimova. Yeah, Irina Savatimova. Okay, this was in 2000. All right. So Savatimova observed something similar, and I think maybe I've got a bunch of other things here, not there. Yeah, so there's some other examples here. Now, this is from SV Adamenko. This is a verified transmutation technology. It's been verified by the US Fusion project. It was transferred from a lab in the outskirts of Kiev in Ukraine in 2015, verified between 2015 and 2017, and transferred to Brookhaven National Laboratory, and then they were shut down. I want you to focus on these tracks here, because I think we're going to see something similar on the Benjamin Huang later, and here is an individual trace, okay? That is the pair trace there. Now, that's one example of a strange radiation track, and I think maybe there's a whole bunch of things, so you can go and have a look at those things. And again, it says EVOs don't like impedance changes, so I've got the details on that, and there are some other Hessdalen tracks here. This one here, you can see it's basically fairly continuous, and then it kind of destabilizes and becomes this sort of Savatimova cold fusion type strange radiation track. And here there's another one, and this is more like the M&M track, the same type of track that you've just seen in the work of SV Adamenko. Okay, this broken track here. Okay, now, after I published all these, Aid said, I see ball lightning often in my sort of local area. And I said, well, get yourself some equipment, and the next time you capture something, then send it over. Or if you can capture something, send it over. Well, he did, and this is it. And you can see that again, it's slowed down here, but it is this spiraling type thing which has gaps in it. Okay, the original video here you can go and see on the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project, Australian Outback Ball Lightning. It's very quick, but fortunately, he had a very high speed, 60 frames a second rather, and high fidelity camera here. So there we go. Okay. So this is a signature, these kind of spiraling kind of images that you get here, spiraling kind of images, and they can break up, they can become more discontinuous. How could that occur? How could that occur? Then there's this presentation, Coherent Matter Traveling Wave Beams, and I have it here, and we're going to look at that now. And I'm just going to change it from having the subtitles there, so we don't need to have that. Give me a second. La la la. Just, okay, all right. Okay, so this was presented on the 1st of September 2021 originally. And I've got a whole bunch of these different traces here, some of which I've just shown you. So this is kind of like your typical kind of spread M&M track. And this might be creating this kind of weird kind of cut mark that you saw on the work of S.V. Adamenko and Vladimir Vysotsky. Okay, here's a more straight M&M track here. These are more bounce tracks. This is a straight spiral, and this is a spiral as well. Okay, these are influences on steel in how should we put this? Dr. Roshan Amaza. Lutz Jaitner had a belief that it was something like this. I think we can put this to bed, although his calculations, in my view, are appropriate for how should we put this? The actual magnetic pressures that are inside. If you want to go and see the tracks from Alexander Parkhomov, go to this link down here. And there are more examples that are similar to what I've already shown you and will show you. But we're going to be able to explain all of these things. This was HHO going through a capillary. And this is where I really started to discuss how charge separation and extreme hydrodynamic shear led to the formation of the coherent matter wave. And so if you can imagine the charge separated material is coming in here and it's getting sheared like that, like a soliton, like a toroidal soliton, but also going round as well. It leads to the coherent matter wave beam. And after this was presented in 2019, it forced Anatoly Klimov to release former plasmatron research from Soviet research. And you could see on these beautiful color images, these spiral tracks. And also when the spiral track hits this metal ring, it splits into two spiral tracks. So you're seeing a fractality to this, okay? It can split into quanta that are self-similar, okay? And obviously this is an experiment from Henk Uren, and so is this, and so is this. But this led to these spiraling tracks being observed here and here, and that led to Dave doing his work and so on, which we just went through earlier. And these are the images that I shared a little while ago. So this is slightly higher fidelity here. It's very quick though. Here you can see the spiraling track down here, an example. But there's a whole bunch of them there, you see? A whole bunch of them. So you can see there's that track there. And they always follow a little explosion. So the coherent matter forms, and then it destabilizes, and the thing goes and blows up and goes off. Okay. I like this particular one here. It's like, you know, going around in a ribbon. Very clear spiraling track here, really clear. Now this is like a caduceus. Okay, you actually have a central bit here and the two things on the side. Okay, this extremely clear spiraling track. I like this one because it's not really spiraling so much, and this one here is just a tube. Okay, so you can imagine this is not a pair. It's one that's orphaned, and it's just going off on its own path. Okay, and in this case, it's literally going through matter. So this was a concern for me, because this has been reported, and it appears to have gone through. Is it a break in the frame? It might be a break in the frame, but anyway. So here's some of those nice tracks there. That's what it looks like real time. Okay, so what you actually see down here is I've composited a whole bunch of these things together. Natural ball lightning traces versus coherent matter traveling waves. I've explained what the coherent matter is. If it stands still, it's not a traveling wave. It is a standing wave of coherent matter. If it's traveling through space, then it is a traveling wave. So a coherent matter traveling wave is what I'm referring to with these things here. So this is a historical image of a ball lightning. These are some of the images that I showed you. This is a new image that I haven't showed you, but it's equivalent to this one by Solin in his 2001 patent here. He actually, I think he sketched this in his 1992 patent, but he actually included the SEM. Okay, so you can see it traveling through here. And this one down the bottom here is actually AIDS ball lightning from the outback. And it clearly shows breaks between. Now again, this could possibly be because of the turn on and turn off frame time of the 60 frames per second he had, but clearly it shows the spiraling nature of the ball lightning, which is equivalent to the spiraling nature of that which was recorded in Hestalan. In this case, this is ball lightning which was recorded in Sochi many, many moons ago. And in a recent presentation, I think by Nikitin, he said that these kinks here were actually because of discharges of lightning in the background, causing an EMP or something that caused the structures to kink. And on reflection, because we've seen the same kinking going on here, I think his statement is correct. And the reason I'm saying this is because in the work of the Vega experiment of, well, certainly Henk Uren, but this is from Dave's, there was a pulsed discharge on top of the DC bias. And it might be when the pulses are coming through that it causes the kinks. You can also see the free association, the grouping together of these structures. 3 of them come together. And I think on the next frame I show the sequence. You can go and look at this presentation when I discuss this in detail, how this one firstly goes backwards, which is the opposite way to which it ends up flying. It hits the negative material and then starts orbiting round the other way comes around here as a spiraling track, and then another one comes out and it spirals around that. Another one comes out, spirals around it here, making a pair, and then another one comes out here and spirals around it. So you have three orbiting around each other. And it's funny, they go basically in a completely straight line until they become within a very tight distance of this original one, and then they are forced to orbit around it, but then they decouple and go off on their own way. So I spoke about that, this is the actual video of that one. So you can see how quick it is. It's like stupid quick. Okay. And we talked about these. And so, right. This, for me, this image that I shared at the Coherent Matter Traveling Wave Part 2 presentation in the CZ in 2021, I think is possibly the most important image for you to hold in mind when you see what was recorded this week. Now, if you recall, I purchased this device, this Dynalite. I put it on my credit card because I needed it. And I specifically went for the one with the polarizer. So it has a polarizer here so we can rotate it around, because I wanted to see if there was some polarization effects, if there was interactions with metal in and cavitation spots on the metal plates of Dr. Roy Shinamaza. And I'll show you in another slide for those that haven't seen it. Essentially, on video, I captured on the first evening, having got access to a plate using the polarizer, that you couldn't see a strange radiation track at all on there, not with the naked eye. And then you put this microscope, you still couldn't see it. But when you put the polarizer on there, immediately the strange radiation helical pair vortex track came out. It revealed itself. And so I thought to myself, why is that doing that? Well, it must be damaging the material or changing its magnetic nature such that when light interacts with it, it polarizes the light. So it's manipulating it. So what you're seeing here effectively on the top right here is something that you can imagine this is traveling on at a very, very fast speed on this stainless steel, and somehow it's creating this regular interaction with the stainless steel almost instantaneously, very much like we saw on the aluminium of the 90-second ultra experiment. So this is a witness mark on steel with this regular braided pattern. Here is a regular braided pattern, but this is on video going through a low pressure gaseous environment and glowing as it does. And I argued that this almost entirely carbon structure here, this braided carbon structure with hollow voids in it, this structure here, is a collapsed coherent matter traveling wave. As I have argued for the silver structure that looks like it's got torids in it and similar kind of thing going on that was formed in the nickel sulfate ultrasound and pulsed DC bias discharge of Suhas Ralkar, as was observed out of another ultra experiment, another silver structure that had come out of the cone of a ultra experiment. I will try and get all the references for the blog later. So what I showed on this slide, in my view, is the thing in plasma, the kind of thing that would lead to the formation of the collapsed coherent matter wave. And you can imagine it's literally a coherent matter wave, and then it instantaneously collapses. The wave function collapses into ordinary matter, and it's like frozen in time. It's frozen in time, okay? And in this case, this is the interaction of one in water with stainless steel, changing the way that it interacts with light so that then it can be revealed. Okay, so I'm then going to pull up another presentation in PowerPoint here, which is a presentation I recommend everyone go and see because it helps people to understand the ultra experiment. So I'm going to go slideshow and go play from start, and we go here. So we'll just skip through this. Yeah, we've seen that. And by the way, this is the same kind of structure that we were talking about here. You've got your caduceus up here. You've got it exploding, and there's your wings. This is the same structure, but this was in indium that I introduced into Suhas Ralkar's, not Suhas Ralkar's, into Dr. Roy Shinamaza's vibrator tank for 10 minutes. And some structures were produced in there in the vibration system, and when it collided with the indium foil, it did this very specific pattern with your caduceus here, and you probably got a vortex here and a counter vortex here, and these are all synthesized matter. And so I spoke about it here, but you can see it in a new light now. Okay, and here's your vortex and counter vortex and the tail in regular standing wave nodes in indium foil in the experiment that led to the finding of the ultra experiment. Anyway, we're going to skip through this. Here's your traveling wave interaction with aluminium foil as observed by Alan Cusk, who was the first person to try a ultra experiment that wasn't indium. And I called this soliton impact. So this is a soliton, which is a traveling wave, standing wave. And so that's what I'm saying that is. We go through these different variations here. And this is bubble structures. These are standing wave structures and the yin-yang forming. And we won't go there. It's at the end, which we want to look at here. You can actually see the bubbles moving around here in the Roy Shinamaza experiments. Okay, so there's your cavitation spots. Okay, here's the perfect cavitation spots here of your magnetohydrodynamic structure. Here is a collapsed toroidal structure on the vibration plates of Dr. Roy Shinamaza, and you can see this is stainless steel in the background, so you can imagine that this is constructed of something that isn't stainless steel, at least at this stage. Okay, here is the track, the spiral track that was revealed by polarized light coming out of a cavitation spot. And it would appear almost going to another cavitation spot, but certainly it's coming out of a cavitation spot. So you can imagine something collapsing in here and spitting out this structure, or it's spitting it out when it's operating. Of course, we can't see it, but based on what happens in the plasma experiments, I expect the same thing happens. When these structures collapse, they will emit part of their confined coherent matter in this spiral wave structure. Or when they're overexcited, like they have too much material in there, as I was saying with the Lion reactor, and it just dumps matter that then immediately becomes ordinary matter. Now, this is an important point to note. If the matter that's coherent is electron depleted in some way, like it's basically the nuclei, and that comes out, well, it's going to grab electrons from the environment around it because, let's say, it might not have any electrons. And in doing so, it's going to cause secondary ionization, which is going to cause a glow. So I imagine that what's going on when these things are shedding these newly synthesized atoms or captured atoms that have lost, let's say, their electrons because of these incredible field strengths that are in these structures. When they release that matter back out, they have to reconcentrate their ordinary matter state, and so they will produce a glow. Here is the vortex and anti-vortex on the palladium-coated material of Dr. Roy Shinamaza, and you can see the vortex of material here where there's diamonds in the middle here. It's mostly carbon and oxygen. Okay, it's a little crystal which you can see the front side and the back side, and then around the outside it's magnesium, which is double carbon, and then chromium, which is quad carbon. I've discussed this before, and you can see like if I fuse two magnesiums together there, I get chromium. I was discussing this recently when we're looking at things like the observations in Bingjuen Huang's reactor, and you're going to see more of that coming because I did some more analysis on the iron-rich crenellated spheres from more of the sample from the VCS5RT, and also in the balls on the thunderstorm generator of Malcolm Bendel. So here, the Amaza vibrator, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we've got strange radiation tracks here in nanospires, cavitation work from Leclerc. And I think that's probably all I want to talk about with that. We'll come to talk about these calcium things in the near future. I think is it? No, no. Is there anything else? No, don't think so. Oh, maybe at the end. No, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about. Now, there's one last thing I would like to talk about quickly. Two things, actually. And I won't need to go into the presentation itself, but you can go and look at this in your own time. Here, in this presentation, which I called Monopoles, Ball Lightning, EVOs, Coherent Matter, and Strange Radiation, bringing them all together, there were these walls in the Vega Valley, but in the floodplain, where under SEM at Cytec Nano, it was basically all copper, essentially, and well, brass components. Okay, and there didn't seem to be any variation other than, you know, basic statistical variation. There wasn't a specific pattern you could see. However, under the Dynolite Edge and under the Sony Alpha, you could see these alternate red and green and red and green and red and green structures that were the same size as the substructures on the side walls of the Vega Valley channels. And they came in pairs. There was a pair, there's a pair, there's a pair. And if you take one structure here, it's roughly 200 and something length. And the radius of each of these red, green, they are about 100 and something. So it's 200 for a pair. So whatever caused these things on the side and shows clear vortical nature of these pairs, because they twist round each other, is the same as this. So I would say this is a vortex and an anti-vortex structure, and this is a vortex and an anti-vortex structure. And because it is going red-green, that is right and left polarization on the incoming light. And therefore, I'm saying that what is happening in that image is whatever interacted with that copper has been such an intense magnetic effect that it has caused the poles of the atoms to be arranged in such a way that it causes polarization when impacting light impinges upon it. And so that is the same in this brass as we saw in the aluminium, these tracks. It's the same as we see in the stainless steel of Roy Shinamaza and so forth. So I think all of these things that we're looking at here and more can be explained by the video I'm just about to show you. Okay? Can be explained by the video I'm just about to show you. And I have to thank Bingjuen Huang for having the courage to share this and allow me to analyze it unrestricted and to say whatever I felt about it. So thank you to Binja and Huang, and a huge shout out to those that helped sponsor this SEM session. There's so much to come from what happened this last week, but this for me is extremely important, because when you see what I'm about to show you, it's going to show precisely this is how strange radiation works. It helps us understand how to deal with safety, and also how it's able to blend materials together. And then after that, I'm going to show you some other not so good examples that I captured during the day. But, you know, for me, if we looked on more of Bin's material, or even more of this particular sample, we'll probably find vast amounts of these structures to, you know, start doing statistics with. Anyway, without further ado, I will hit the play button. Thank you very much, above all things, for your donation. That's very kind of you. Right, so I'm going to hit it now, and I'll see you in about 33 minutes.
Hi, my name's Bob Greenyer, and I'm a volunteer with the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. So today we're going to have a look again at this sample from Binja Huang, the DHX-2 collapsed pipe from the 210B reactor that I received on the 29th of December 2023, and we are going to be looking at that on this thermoscientific Phenom XL large stage SEM. So we can see it here in the center of the stage. This gives us a color overview, which we can use to navigate around the sample. Definitely cut a channel out of here. Incredible. Now, is this the dead item here, or that end? Well, we'll change our focal plane back down to this one. Have a look at that first. Then we'll have a look at this end up here. I'll do a mid-focal plane as well. Actually, it might have already done that. Definitely got a curved cut out of here. A discrete curve. Interesting, look at this. It's got this lattice framework here. Let's go into that. We have seen this before. Yeah, this might be a braided section, up close and personal. See how hard lined that wall is of this channel. Very, very discreet. Okay, this kind of settles it for me that when these structures, and in fact you can see one of the little substructures here. Wow. Incredible. So when these little substructures go and chew their way through a particular material, sometimes they can leave these braided sections behind. That is a beautiful piece of data there. Now, let's see what it was at this end of the channel. Is this part of the bit that came in, or is it as it came out? Okay, so we're going to look for other examples of the interaction of these structures with the substrate. Be interesting to see if there was, you know, more interaction with the fractal substrate. This would explain the observations by Matsumoto and also by ourselves and by Dr. Alexander Parkhomov of his strange traces. Yeah, so for me, that is just wonderful there. That area there.
very subtle, actually. That area there with the interwoven, here we can see that it is these structures that produce these braided aftermath. And it's there in the channel, and we see the little guy that probably was part of doing this work. Let's just get that guy just full on DSD so you can see, okay, there we go. As he died, he left his carbon splodge there. Take one of that. We'll do one full. That's no good. Not that contrast. Look at this braided pattern here. Okay, I'm really excited to look for more examples of these. Amazing thing. Look at it. It's coming under there, going over there. This is coming under there, braided. It's essentially eating the material, and as it does it, it's spitting it out and just blending it. Oh my God, it's just amazing data. I'm going to put that on SED so we can see the geometry here. Ha! That is just spectacular. Okay, look at that. Look at that. I'm going to add that into my places I want to keep. So save position there, please. So I think I might want to do a 3D look at this. I think that would be a good plan. Brighten that up a little bit. I'll take a stupid... I've done it again. Come on, here. Just pull out a little bit because we're going to go into that with super high res. Okay. We'll go there, we'll go there, and this is going to be a stonking image. Do you want to see something amazing? This substructures of this material, it's come through and it's cut this hemispherical section out of the copper oxide, and it's braided the structures, and this is one of the substructures that's done it. Mm-hmm. It's just absolutely amazing. We've actually got these on video, anyway.
Really?
Yeah, doing this, but not on the metal, but in free space, okay, spinning around each other. It's just amazing. Okay, I'm going to do a 3D structure of this so that it can be understood in more detail. This is absolutely spectacular. This is awesome! Yeah, so this would explain all of these strange radiation tracks. And you can understand that these blighters are pretty intense little creatures. They like eating this stuff for breakfast. Wow, what a beautiful image that is. Whew. Look at that. We're going to find other examples, but that's my first thing. So we are going to do a scan here. Oh, look at the braid on that. So we're going to... Oh, look at that. You can literally see where the structure died. You can see the braid on. You can see the deepness of the channel here. Look at that. I'm going to delete some of these things. Right, look at that. Oh my. Look at it. If that's not conclusive evidence of two things orbiting around each other, capturing material, spewing it out the back, blending. Oh my God, this is happening throughout nature, and it's blending material together. It is weaving a tapestry of matter. Incredible data. Oh, look, you can even see the dimple in the donut here. Whoa, okay. I've got to try and remember how to delete these things. That is the 3D view. What's that? Okay, that is, I think, adjusted for. Okay, so that is the relief view. So it's normalizing it and showing you the actual channel depth. Okay, so we're going to find out all kinds of information. It's consistent between here and here. So we're going to find out how deep that channel is. And see, note it's deep and then not so deep. So, you know, that's reflective of the 3D nature of this orbiting structure. So we're going to do one line across here. Yeah. We'll do from outside. You see it's thrown material up on the edge. So it's got a ridge. Okay, so that's kind of across the path. Look at that. It's gouged. What is that? It's gone from, okay, my whole distance there is 15.2 microns. Half of that is 7.6. So is it 10 microns across or whatever in the middle? Maybe. That's the ridge height. Okay. The base level here is at, let's say 90 nanometers maybe. And then it's gone down 1,150, let's say 1,160 nanometers. So 1,000. What is that? Is that a micron? I don't know. Look at that. That is deep. Now, is it similar up this end? If you do a similar kind of cut across the channel here. Oh, look at that. That is incredibly consistent. That is incredibly consistent. Okay. Try and make them the same width. Okay. Whoa. Look at how consistent that is. That is stunning. Incredible data. Look at that. Right, well, we're going to go across the braids, aren't we? We have to. So, where should we do it? We need to find the width of the braids, don't we? So it's kind of like, actually, we just do that and get the width of the braid. I turn off the other ones here. What am I doing here? Doink, doink. We don't need that one. These are our two tunnel edges. So look at this. That is around about 2 microns wide, the substructure here. 2 microns. And it is going up from roughly, let's say, 40 down to, so it's 340 or something. It's not seeing the whole thing. Right, we'll also do a look at the actual disk itself, which I think we can probably go from about there to about there. That's about 3 microns across there. Okay. And the ridge here, the material that's kind of thrown up across there. Look at that. I'll get rid of this one. So that is about 350 microns. This is utterly insane levels of understanding of what's going on here. For me, seeing one of these structures as the actor that has done this braiding of part of a collective structure, it settles the debate for me on what is acting and producing strange radiation, and I'll leave it to you to consider what the implications are of something like this going through material. But it's definitely something to be considering when producing reactors. Look at that channel. That channel is totally consistent. On peak to peak, basically, like that. So, yeah. It's kind of like 700 and... What? No, it's about 700 and something microns. And from there, kind of there to there. Yeah. Difficult to get it precisely, but that is one big trough. Look at that. This is gouged a valley out of this structure. Okay, so I'm going to leave these. Is it that one? No, that one and that one. They are the money shot in terms of this oval structure, and we are going to save this. We are going to save this. Yes, we'll have all of that. Save that all. What a pleasure and what an honor to be studying this sample. This is the signature of strange radiation. Yeah. And it's just the different clustering and substructures that result in the different patterns. There we go. So we'll close that one down. That is our braid. And we'll try and take a bigger view of that area. What an amazing thing that is. What an amazing thing. So looking at this now, it looks like this might have been the one that did it. And it's got the ejector here of some material. And it's got a hole in this side, and that might have been the one that came out from here. I don't know. I'm speculating here. Whatever. This is incredible data. Incredible data. Look at how this is just easy. Showing, in my view, the responsibility for doing the damage here. Okay, this is going to take a bit of time, because what I'm going to do is, currently I'm focused somewhere down here. I'm going to move the focus to here, maybe here, and maybe here, because this is on the angle of the sample. And I'll need to stitch these together, but wow, what a pleasure and an honor to be looking at this. I suspected that these were things that were going on for a long time. This explains the diamond-like lattice structure in the Vega experiment of Henk Uren. It explains the silver structure in the Suhas-Ralka experiment. This explains the silver-rich structure in one of my ultra experiments. It explains the cut marks observed by Dr. Alexander Parkhomov, by Takaaki Matsumoto. Oh my God, so much is answered by this one image. Or rather, it's now clarified. It was the suspicion, but now you can literally see it at work. Can anyone be in any doubt about the reconstructive capability of these little things? The way they can tear through metal and mix it up and transmute it. And bearing in mind in the Vega experiment, when we see these things flying through the air and orbiting around each other. Wow, wow, wow. Actually, looking at it from this distance, it's almost like it did this job here, and when this one disrupted, something came out here and did a helical braid here. This here looks like another helical braid. Wow. Oh my. Or maybe, here's a thought, it was something traveling here and interacting with this one that then caused the disruption. Maybe it was traveling this direction. I don't know, but these things will be answered in time. Just amazing. Conclusive evidence that these structures can essentially instantaneously chew through solid metal and metal oxides and pass this material in a fluidized but not molten state through the center of them structures, the substructures even, and deposit it again, and it almost instantaneously solidifies. It's mind-boggling, the certainty of this data and what it is showing us. So yeah, I'm going to take one more image after this. So essentially this has taken like 14 minutes to capture, when I've done the next image after this, about 15 minutes to capture 4 8K frames, which I will then overlay in a stack focus to produce a incredibly accurate representation of what nature is able to do. And anyone watching this is going to be the first people to see this new phenomena. Not new to nature, but new in the modern era, at least in the public sense. Yeah, we've got the mid to near field in focus. I'll take this near field as well. Yeah, given the fact that this is not very deep here and it comes out and ends up here with something that's about the dimension of this, I think that that is actually how this occurred. It came in here, and that would make logical sense that over here it was starting to destabilize and it was chucking out material. So it's literally, as I said in Sochi in 2018 when I was reviewing the 20 micron cut all the way down the quartz of the Lion reactor. And if you recall, I was saying it was like and I was saying it consumes so much and then it kind of like destabilizes and then it effectively defecates. And I think what's happened here is it's defecated, but for some reason something spat out, and we'll have a closer look at this. But I think this also then broke down and spat out this helical beam over here. And then it got to this point and it kind of like jumped out, or rather it was going away at an angle and then it dropped down here. So we'll do one more focus point over here, then we'll do a close in on this area here, and then we'll do another close in on that. You can always get what you want. You can always get what you want. But you can try sometimes. You just might find you get what you need. Yeah, so definitely we're going to look at the braided substructure coming out of here. And this might just be ejecting its payload in the same way that this structure ejected this part of this payload. What a complete honor. You understand, we're at the beginning of a new industrial revolution, or I don't know, understanding of how to manipulate matter. Oh, it's really amazing. Okay, so let's go and look right at this now. Coming out angle. Don't think we need to do that at 8,000 because, well, over there. Yeah. What I will do is I think this is mostly on SED. I will switch to BSD, get a better idea of the elemental composition, then I'll switch back to go and have a look at the other one. Sorry guys, you've been caught in the act. Caught in the act. Not a secret anymore. Yeah, so this is on SED. I'm going to put this over to BSD and we'll see. I'll change the brightness here. Yeah, it spewed out a bit of carbon there, isn't it? Now, is that the best focus we can do? Yeah, you can definitely see it spewed out a bit of carbon there. Oh, it's lovely. Look at that. Ha! Just beautiful. Just beautiful. Is there any doubt? Is there any machine, because the idiot looking today to focus on geometry, and that's not such a bad thing. Look at that. All right, we'll go down and we'll look at this one with the same detector. We'll keep the back of the channel. So this is the back of the channel. We'll keep that in shot so that we can see. And we will go here. We'll go here. It's like it's got to here and it's like jumped out and crashed down on here. I will change that to a mix. We'll do a different adjustment here. We'll do one shot like that. Take a 3D shot of this area as well. Yeah, okay. Try a full-on object scan of this. Okay, so we're going to go and do this geometry area here. Can I change the size of that? Oh, it's not really ideal, is it? Maybe you can do a diagonal on that. Let's go back to here. We'll do a rotation. Like that, maybe. Is that too much? Move it back a little. That's too much. Let's see. Yeah, that's got everything we want. You can get the diameter across there. I just want to, I'll rotate it a bit more. Slightly. No, not that. Okay. Can we do it? Oh, a bit more. No, not 12. I want 3. Come on, give me 3. 3. Is that only going to go in steps of 2? I need a better mouse. 4. Let's see what that works. Maybe even more. 5. Yeah, okay. We'll run with that. Here we go. Oh, stop it. So this is, I'm going to call it trench and cutter. Okay, let me view like that. Okay, there is our structure here. That is the thing that did the cutting. That is the hole in it. That actually is the pole. So it'd be worthwhile doing some study on some of these things to actually get a little bit more understanding of the geometry. I don't want that. Goodbye. Okay, so let's measure across our structure here, roughly across there. Nearly that. That is just a 5 micron one, right? So this is a small one. And so this will be the wheel within a wheel. And the other one that we saw earlier would be the wheel within a wheel within a wheel. So this isn't even the big boy. This is a substructure in its own right. Yeah, around 5 micron. If you go across there, maybe get the center point here. It's around sort of 5-6 micron. There. With that, the little apple thing in the middle there. Yeah, basically. Ken Shoulders, you were right. There we go. And from about here to here, there we go. There's your trench. And your trench is going down about as much as your structure is going up. I rest my case. So I think that this one here this structure here did this consumption. It skipped there for some reason. That deep point's there, isn't it? Yeah, look, there's the ridge. Go to the center point, pull down from the ridge. Yeah. I think that, my friends, is the structure that consumed that, and it's buried itself a similar amount into the material. There is some ejector of carbon there probably, and I think it lost one of its structures in that last interaction. Just for the sake of argument, I'm going to turn those off and we'll see the kind of distance between here and here that it jumped. Yeah, so it jumped about 7 microns, 6.5 microns. Basically its own diameter and a little bit more. Okay. That is awesome. Thank you very much, Bin Juin Huang. And thank you to the donors that made this session possible. How about that then? So, if anyone wants to come and see me, I will be speaking at the Cosmic Summit in America. And for those that don't know what I'm talking about, then it is this. And it's called A New Dawn of an Old Age, if anyone remembers that phrase, which I used some time ago from now. And you can see that I am somewhere down here. And I'll be speaking on the weekend for the Plasmoid Pass people. So, and you'll be able to hang out with me depending on your passes. And if people wish to support me in order to go there, then I would ask them to use my thing, which is here. So you can just scan the QR code there and it will send you to my affiliate link, which is bit.ly/Cosmic Summit. And as a additional bonus here, if you use BOOM50, you get $50 off the Megafauna Pass. And if you use BOOM25, you get $25 off the Classroom Day Pass. And both can be used at once. So if someone wants to a Megafauna and a Classroom, then they can get $75 off the total. So yeah, you can just put your phone up to that QR code and get the link that will help me attend the conference. So there we have it. That's my commercial for today. And now what we're going to do, we are going to look at that beautiful 8K image that I generated. Let me get that up for us. Okay. Right, let me find that. It is here, and it is here, and it is here, and it is not there, it's here. Right. For your viewing glory, enjoyment. So I took 4 depths of field here. I probably should have taken 6. There's a slight fuzziness here and a slight fuzziness here, but it's not critical to tell the story. But you can actually see that this is very, very high fidelity, and we can move around it and go in. Now, I think the pole is somewhere here, or rather this might be where one of the structures bled out, and these might be where the substructures are punching through. Now we know that the N-1 structures are able to make a hole in these things. I spoke about it many moons ago when I was talking about the 3D structure for the first time. I showed how it overlaid on many pieces of data and explained what was observable. And in the case of the sphere of silicon in the HHO of Slobodan Stankovic on carbon, apparently synthesized, there were some black splodges on the side of the sphere, and at that time I said this is probably where the N-1 is punching through. And if you go to the deep zoom image, you will see countless examples of this. So I think we're really on to something. And we have a new tool in our toolbox. But look at this braid here. So you've got the braid here, and you've got the braid. So this brig braid here is coming from this structure, in my view. And then this braid here is coming from this substructure here. Okay? So you can start to understand how these various things appear that we observed both on video. We've observed it on video, and how we've observed it interacting with solid material, both leaving tracks that can only be observed by polarized light, and also by basically by polarized light. Okay, so we're going to have a look at a whole bunch of other tracks and stuff we've got here. So let's do that now. This is a big splodge. That's not somewhat important, but we will look here. So this is a different view of this. Okay, so here, this is just an individual shot of this at an even higher res. So you can see the little guy that did the work here. Rather fine, and the carbon tail that it has. Okay. What have we got next? This is the other end. And that's another shot of it with the, you can see the tail here and the floret. A whole bunch of images I took here. Here you can definitely see the vortical output from the substructure here. And this is showing the BSD detector, so you actually get to see the elements variation. So this will be copper and oxygen predominantly. This is carbon. So it's got carbon mixed in there. So I have no doubt in my mind that the carbon is synthesized. In my view, all of the evidence points to it. And here we go. This is a real close-up on our little creature that did the work, the collapse structure here. Again, carbon around. This may well be iron. It's a blend of material, so that's collapsed coherent matter there. Unfortunately, the SEM EDX was unable to work on this particular device, and so I focused on the geometry, and I'm very glad I did today on this particular day. So you can see it here in different visualization modes, a mixed blend. So that's BSD full, that's a mix of 60% of BSD and SED, and that's secondary electron detector on its own. So backscatter detector full, which shows our elements, the mix of 60% there of backscatter and secondary electron detector, and this, the secondary electron detector, shows the geometry more. I will share the 3D files so that you can look at those. What's going on here? Is it frozen? It seems to have frozen. Why is it frozen? Sorry guys, you're not seeing something. Why is that? No, it's not passing the video over. Why is that not working? Okay, give me a second. You're missing something here. I will try and fix that. I'll put it on the held frame. No, it's not doing it. Why is it not doing it? Okay, I'll try a different approach. No, I've lost the, where's the elevator music? Yum 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 la da 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 da. It's still not working. Oh, let me see if I can fix this. Right, okay, I'll see what I can do here. Dear. Help me, please. Help me. Right, okay, come on. Come on. Yes, I've got it back. Okay, all right, that was a pain, but we're back in the room. So, normal service will resume. I'm sure you're glad to hear. There we go. Right, you see my mouse again. Okay. Right. So this is the area of the sample that we were looking at here, where we found this track. And the area which we took the just over 2 millimeter square section from was up here. So no, we are nowhere near the area. So the deep zoom image was a couple of millimeters squared, I think 2.3 millimeters square millimeters up here. And this sample was taken from down here. But I did take this image here so that I can find it another time should I wish to. So here is another example, in my view. It's less beautiful, and it's also got backfilled with some stuff. But you can see the little chappy that did it here, and again it got kind of, I don't know whether it kicked out and kicked back in again, or whether this isn't the one that did the trail. But in this case, this reminds me here of the mark left by strange radiation in the SV Adamenko and Vladimir Vysotsky work. So let me just bring that up so that you can see them side by side, so you don't think I'm just making it up. Let's see if I can get actually that. Did I get rid of it? Yeah, maybe. Not there. Okay, here, probably. Where is it? Here. No. Yes. Where does that go? Oh dear. No, can't find it. Okay, so yeah, don't know where that's gone. Discovered. Send that to my. You'd think it would be easier. No, I can't find it. Okay, oh, I had it earlier. The one that I was referring to earlier by Adamenko. No, why can't I find that? Anyway, the one by Adamenko. I'll get it more organized in the references for the blog, but this kind of track was in that track by Adamenko and Vladimir Vysotsky. Again, this hole here with this carbon plume coming out, I believe is because of the n-1 on this particular structure, although this is already an n-1 structure, so it's just a substructure bleed out. And we're going to talk about that and how that causes the ball lightning to be spiraling, in my view. Now, this one is pretty spectacular for me because you can see the things at the head of this probably is the pair what did it. And it's burrowed itself to a stop here but it has this whole swept channel behind it. Okay? And one is slightly above than the other one, and I've got it here in SED. I have got it in SED. So in SED, you can see the depth to which this is gouged out, this channel. And you can imagine as it's come in here and it started consuming the material, at this point it's consumed so much and it's just spitting it all out of the back. And so you can see here, there's a whole bunch of different elements here. Okay. And in various different structures. You can even see a ring of structure here, so it kind of really broke up when it burrowed itself in here. So this is less straight, but you do get these strange radiation tracks where they tend to move in an arc, and it might be that there was another structure here, or it might be that one got dragged by the other. So this one actually, you know, it was coming in straight, and then this bit started to crash in, and so it then started to pull it round in an arc. So I don't know, but by studying these things, we're going to know exactly what's going on. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit, let's put it like that. So between these two images, really tells a story of impact. Were they face-to-face? No, if you look at this one here, they're not face-to-face. Okay? They are side by side. Okay? Right. Right, so I'm going to have a look at a whole bunch of other images that were taken this week because I think they're rather special and we can learn a lot from them. But before I do that, I just want to talk about safety. We have shown in our own experiments on aluminium foil, on stainless steel observed on Dr. Roy Shinamaza plates, on copper and on brass, these things interacting and producing these tracks. People have observed them in other materials. In the case of Ken Shoulders, he showed them burrowing through fused quartz, glass rather, through alumina and through, let's say, aluminium, different materials. These things instantaneously affect the material. And I'm going to pull up the image again that we saw from the original data set that I took at Alan Goldwater's Magic Sound Lab. So just bear with me and I'll pull this up because it really tells another important story. And that is, not only are they affecting the polarization through possibly intense magnetic field, they are also, and my machine's frozen again, I'm sorry. If you recall, there were a pair that came down and crashed onto the brass, onto the copper, and they split apart a little bit, and they carried on for a little distance, gouging a channel through the copper oxide. And then one came to kind of like a screeching halt, and another one carried on. Its partner in crime carried on. But the one that came to a screeching halt first had a 200 nanometer, roughly, let's say, at my estimation, layer of copper wrapped around it. So not only is it, in certain circumstances, instantaneously polarizing the material and fluidizing it and burrowing through it, it's actually able to scrape a piece of material off. So these things will have, depending on the material that they are traveling through, and this was observed by Shishkin, it captures the nuclei of atoms of material that it translates through. that it transfers through. You don't want that in your body. Flat out, you don't want it in your body. And people that have experienced, there's anecdotes of people where they've experienced the interaction with ball lightning, and they have found that they get pins and needles. Same thing reported by Tesla, as in Vasileitos' book, where Tesla found these pinpricks. I believe that this is his dirty etheric matter, and the dirty etheric matter is these structures that are carrying metals or whatever material they've been through, and when it goes into the body and they detonate, they're spitting out their payload, as you've seen them do on video in the Vega experiments of David Boutley and Henk Uren, as you've seen them in ultra experiments, and as you've witnessed today in these SEMs of the ultrasound or cavitation experiments of Binzhen Huang. But the good news is, and if I could, no, it's still not back. Oh, it is back. What's not back? In this work here, if I can find it, that I shared many moons ago, how to reliably make strange radiation. And that's the problem. I don't know. I've got something that's a little bit wrong with my computer. It's probably run out of memory. Anyway, in here, this guy, Perevoschikov, he created the birdies, which are the monopole-like structures. But he did this by exposing water to the outside environment, but in a sealed chamber for, say, 10 days. And then he fired a low milliwatt laser at the water. In theory, the bound clusters that are being harnessed from the environment that I believe are bound to the dissolved oxygen in the water are then emitted. And he found that they could go through several layers, the casing and several layers of film before they would then blow up like this, or they would travel along the film and expose and leave a track. Ken Shoulders says they don't like going through impedance changes. So he suggested thin films. Alexander Shishkin suggests thin films, right? And so you combine those two pieces of information, and that is when I came up with this shield, and this has 7 layers of alternating aluminium and cellophane on a polystyrene base. And I have a contact on the corner that contacts all the aluminium through here, right? And that allows me to put a negative or a positive charge relative to ground or whatever on there, or ground it. And given what we have seen today in this data, which at the moment I can't do anything with because it's kind of stuck my computer. So I'm going to actually reset my computer here, and we'll see how we can get on here. I'm going to restart that. Restart. Let's see what happens. Given what we have seen here, I think what can happen is if the exotic vacuum object, these ball lightning-like structures, are in such a wonderful neutral state, they can pass through various pieces of material. If they can get to, how should we put this? They get to an impedance change and they get excited, particularly if they have got a metal with lots of free electrons. So what have we talked about? We talked about stainless steel, copper, brass, aluminium being affected, and these tracks being formed along the surface. What I think is happening is maybe sometimes they get excited when they get those electrons, or they come through into a different resistive regime. They can then travel along the surface. They travel along the surface of the metal. And because we know they can go through metal, it might be that you need to excite them a couple of times before they are able to interact with the next layer of shielding. And apparently the Ark of the Covenant was built in a similar way, and you might imagine that whatever was in the Ark of the Covenant was potentially something that was able to create these structures, or was something that was containing these structures. So with that in mind, I am going to say here right now that with the data that I have observed this week that I shared with you tonight, I personally, and this is not something that I would say it would be the case necessarily for everyone, I personally am okay with running the supernova reactor with this shielding. I personally. I know that a lot of people have reached out to me for potential shielding methods and, you know, what's the right thing to use. For me, I think this is okay. And I think the Shishkin method is belt and braces. I think the combination of the two, and that was using a phosphor combined with silver activator, so zinc sulfide or strontium aluminate with silver in a bound, how should we put this, rubber type thing. Right, I think I've reset my computer, so hopefully this is going to work, and I can take you through some of the other beautiful images that we had the pleasure of getting this week. Okay, have I got anything going on here? Is it going to break? Let's see. Okay. Okay. So, let's see. Okay, we're back in the room. Okay, the image that I was trying to show you was this one. Okay, so here, up here, is the initial impact point. And then it kind of split. And then you've got like two separate trails, and one came down here and it finished here. And then the other one went off in this direction and down here. Okay. And what did that look like? Well, it looked like this. You can see here the scale is 20 microns, and this is very, very thin. This is nanometer, but this is copper. We determined that to be copper. So that is stripping material from the surface. Now, there are other material things we can learn from that, and it's this. This one is expelling atoms that were formerly in it on one side. This is expelling atoms that was formerly in it from the opposite side. Now, that you could imagine, if it's not capturing the atoms, you can imagine that if that's throwing those out of the back, it's effectively propelling itself. Okay? Now, if these atoms, as I said earlier, were electronless, i.e. they were bare nuclei, newly synthesized nuclei or transmuted nuclei, and they came out into the environment, they would then grab electrons from the environment, and as the electrons fell through the electron shells, they would produce photons, as would the electron, the matter that have donated their electrons or given their electrons over. So I think that for that reason, that is kind of what explains for me ball lightning and similar phenomena that we have observed, for instance, this ball lightning and in coherent matter waves like this. As it's traveling along, it's capturing atoms, it's stripping them, it's maybe reconstituting the atoms and spitting out and propelling itself. And so I think that this explains what you see with ball lightning and these coherent matter traveling waves. As it's going along, you've got some coming out this way and some coming out this way. And if it's traveling towards the camera, it's going like that. But if it's traveling sideways like that, okay, they're orbiting around each other. We know these two are linked. They're bound together, okay? But as it's spinning around, it's throwing this matter out, which is producing light. And so you get these spiral waves. Now, depending on the substructures and the initial velocity and whether it's rolling over itself, I actually did this in 3D. You can actually simulate with two tori, depending on their initial starting motion, you can simulate most of these tracks, okay? And so I think we basically explained the observables on video, on physical embodiments, and in natural ball lightning. And really, you only kind of need this type of shot to understand what is going on. Okay. Before I go on to show some of the beautiful images, does anyone have any questions? Does anyone think there is some outstanding things that need to be resolved with how, you know, ball lightning, you know, the observables occur and so forth? I'm going to have a look through. So Gordon, good night. He's gone to bedtime. Have you tested the shielding? No. I have literally built this shielding. I wanted to test the supernova reactor, but the guy that ran it, I was told, got breast cancer and died. He was 40 years old. He left 2 young children and a widow. I wanted to understand what can come out of these devices, and, you know, be responsible. And I've always tried to warn people, you know, based on what I had already seen, these things need to be respected. Now we are learning their nature and their behavior. So because they have these beams that come out the side that I showed you in the video last night, they also seem to be able to capture, because they're little mini tornadoes, not like the big tornado, but they're little mini tornadoes. If they've got 2 substructures inside, if they've got less than 4, let's say, they have the disruption beams come out of the side. And so if they will actually attach themselves on the side, not just on the bottom, and they will join to each other in those ways. And you can actually, I might be giving the game away, you can see this kind of behavior going on the deep zoom image. And so there's a range of ways where they can end up traveling along the surface, as we've shown in these strange radiation tracks that we've looked at today. So if you have multiple layers of exciting and high impedance and exciting and high impedance and exciting and high impedance, in the case of this one, the exciting is the aluminium, the 4th most conductive element, right? And we already know, we've seen it interact in a range of different technologies, including John Hutchison's technology, including the Ultra experiment. We know this is going to interact with them, but it might not interact with the first layer, right? So by going through insulator and conductor and dielectric and so forth over and over again, I believe that Shishkin and separately Ken Shoulders are correct, and we have shown the physical proof between the scraping up of the material as shown in the study that I did in Alan Goldwater's lab, the physical scraping up of the material and wrapping around itself, and the work that we showed today, we've shown that this is why because of the substructure nature and because of this tornadic structure, because if you remember, we had the tornado and it came down, and the tornado is attracted to pulling up the metal. But what it did is it caused the structure to crash into the copper and come to a grinding halt. So it gets captured by the metal. It's kind of like it wants to eat it, but it gets stuck with it, if you know what I mean. It might still be active on that metal, and I will do a presentation later in the week which supports that they probably are, in certain circumstances, still active, but at least they're stuck and captured. And in the case of Shishkin's material for shielding, he's using the silver powder in there, because if you've got a silver grain and you've got millions of them, or at least hundreds of them in the thickness of the shielding, there's many opportunities for that Evo to get excited. And then when it gets stuck, it's then going to decay. And that is the point of the phosphor, is to capture the structure and allow the energy to dissipate. And so you can see logical reasons why that would work. So I think we actually have a shielding technology that will work. I think that if you don't get the structures too energized, if you make sure you break them before they're too powerful, then they'll get pretty much stuck with a lot less shielding, if you know what I mean. But I would recommend technologies that use these types of creatures. Consider one or more of these shielding technologies. Okay, and I would also propose graphite, carbon, or boron nitride or silicon carbide as a particular layer. These are all covalent materials, and we already know from the work of Tesla that carbon and silicon carbide were able to withstand etheric matter streams. And in the case of Tesla, he didn't have access to boron nitride at the time. So boron nitride would be another preferable material. And boron nitride is the second hardest material after diamond itself. And so possibly might be a better covalent material as a part of a shielding component over and above silicon carbide. Okay, so those are the kind of things I would suggest to play it safely. But it's simpler, in my view, to get the aluminium foil and the cellophane. So we already know also that carbon stops the cohering process, right? So we showed this with a Marsa gas. So a Marsa gas alone will cut through and transmute tungsten, and it will do cut through and transmute titanium. However, it isn't getting thermally as hot as those materials should be for a hole to be punched through them. You add a small amount of carbon in the form of a hydrocarbon, and it is not able to do those coherent matter effects. So the carbon disrupts the coherent matter process. And that's something to bear in mind if you want a reactor to work for a long period of time, because the actual structures themselves create carbon, okay? In the case of the thunderstorm generator, it's almost self-protecting to a degree, because it actually makes carbon, and then that protects the thing from, in my view, it lowers the chance of emission of these structures. So this is not advice that I'm saying you should rely on as gospel. But I personally, having seen what I shared with you today and what I shared with you over the last week and stuff, I'm pretty confident that the shielding method is suitable. Okay. So with that, I'll see if there's any more questions before I show you some other beautiful images to close out the day. Phil Dubois says, so I need aluminium graphite underwear. Got it. No, I joked when I made that shield. It's hilarious because you actually need a tin foil hat, which is actually an aluminium foil hat to protect yourself from this. The tin foil hatters were correct all along. Hi, Jordan. Alchemical Science has come in. So Harry says, so can we just get the classroom pass to see you speak, Bob? Yes, I think you can, actually. I think you can. For those that were asking and who potentially have come in late, I have got my affiliate link now. And it's you can go to bit.ly/Cosmic Summit, or you can use this QR code and it'll take you to my affiliate link for any of the accesses. And if you want 50% off, $50 rather, off the Megafauna Pass, or $25 off a Classroom Day Pass, that is respectively Boom 50 and Boom 25. And they can both be used if you want more of the offerings. I don't know whether an electromagnetic shield would do you any good. These things can just walk through standard sort of Faraday cages and stuff like that. So, Tammy, a few years ago, I was actually thinking of making a hat that had the correct levels of shielding built into it, but that didn't literally look like a piece of tinfoil wrapped on your head. But tinfoil and cellophane. I'm not saying put cellophane all over your face. That would be bad in other ways. But like if you appreciated the brain the way it is, then maybe a layered cellophane and tinfoil hat. And, I will buy a drink for the first person I see at the Cosmic Summit wearing a tinfoil hat. It's going to be like one of those ones that looks like a, how should we put this? A contraceptive protection nipple made out of tinfoil hat. Right, okay, I'm going to show you some beautiful images. If you've got some questions, I'll look at the end. Oh, Phil, you want to be the first person, right? Well, okay, let's see you if you are. Right, okay. Are you ready for some mind-blowing images here? Are you ready for some mind-blowing images? Now, actually, what I'm going to do is that video that I shared today in this sequence, I will cut that out, and I will also put it, when I'm talking about examples, I will put references in that video to the sections of the previous presentations I've done in the past that discuss those, and the images, if I can, that I'm referring to in that bottom section of the video before I upload it. And then I'm going to translate it into various languages, because I think it's very important that people, for instance, in Russia and in Japan particularly, get to see this as soon as possible. I will be making a presentation to the Russian community soon on this. They particularly asked for me to discuss it in the last meeting, so I will be doing that soon. Right, come on then, let's have a look at these things. And then I will share the videos. I've still got more material to cut from sessions with Alan and also from this week. So here we go. Okay. So this is what I mean about things coming out of the side. I think this is the pole, so you can see the vortex coming here, but this is the pole, the material coming out of the side. So this in my view is to do with the N-1 tour. Okay, this here. This is on this part of the sample, right in the kind of central side view. You can see around here we've got the mix on, so we've got some of the backscatter detector, so we can see some of the element composition, and this dark area here is carbon, so you can see it's mostly on the back side of this. And so we're just changing the contrast and focal point there. This is with just BSD. So BSD here doesn't show you the geometry so much, but it shows you the elemental. And you can see it's really on the back side. So this is the head of this structure. This one, beautiful apple. Again, the head here and a deep carbon deposit underneath here. And this is the difference here. This is a secondary electron detector. You can really see the geometry here, which you can't see here. This might as well be a flat painting, but here you can really get an idea of the geometry. And here's a blend between, and this is SED as well. And you can really see the substructure in here. It's really lovely. Really just stunning. Here's a pair again. This is the top. This is the top, and this is something coming out of the side. So I believe that this would be, as a result, the N-2. Sorry, N-1. And of course, you can understand that it's more stable, the inner structure, because that got spun up first, and then it formed a bigger one, and then that joined another one, and so on. So. Or they spontaneously form as they quantize up. Okay, this piece over here probably came from here as well. So I'm saying that this is where the disruption beam from the N-1 subtor is punching through. And that was again here. And we're looking at it with different detectors here. There's a secondary electron detector. This is a mix. I've changed the contrast here, it's quite high. You see the substructure here is much more broken up, but it's also in like almost like cobblestones or segments. It's segmented like there is a wave function going around here. Clearly 2 points on the top of this one. Now I rather like this vol-au-vent over here. There's Oreo. There's a clear top and bottom, and then this central section. Okay, and again it's divided into these chunks. And we have this looked at and zoomed up to, and this is with the mix, and this is with the secondary electron detector. So you can see these bits actually stick out further. You can't see that in the mix here, but you can see it on the secondary electron detector. You see this in context. Quite like this structure here. Looks a little bit like someone's bottom. Again, here you can clearly see the top of the structure, and it's split here. Here's some of our Oreos. So you can see the difference between the two detectors there. That's got a mix on it. That's just the BSD. Again, it's split and some material has come out. Here's one of these copper bits that gets carried along. So this might just be a total split, and this is a actually where the secondary tool comes through. I quite like this. I think this is some internal part that's been lost. Right, now I'm going to talk about this in a separate video, but essentially this is the carbon tubes that Matsumoto saw. So I'm going to do a comparison because I'm going to be visiting Matsumoto to collect the rest of his effects in terms of his technical works and hopefully give a lecture at Hokkaido University on the subject material. So you can imagine that this is a tube. You've got a kind of Fresnel effect going on where this is thicker because it's you're looking at the side of the tube here, and it's laid it over this piece of material here. And so it's really rather lovely. But this was observed by Matsumoto, but we just got it here in higher detail. Harry says, I'm confused where the samples are from. They're all from the tube. Just various parts of the tube. Here is a helical structure in carbon. Absolutely stunning example of these carbon tubes. You can really see how this is formed. Bingewen Huang. That's just a crack in the copper oxide. This, I will do a comparison. There's exactly the same shape structure on the ball burn sample of John Hutchison. And now we understand that these are both equivalent to ball lightning structures, both the work that he did and what is going on inside the Bingewen Huang reactor. It's not surprising. So I will do a comparison between the two there. Here's a rather fine example of one that's deep burrowed in. And if I was to hazard a guess, I would say that this is where the N-2 breached. Slightly polygonal kind of outlet side. Is it 6? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. Slightly polygonal. Quite a lot going on here. I particularly like the way these kind of these are kind of spreading out, revealing a little bit of the substructure here. These are kind of breaking through here. Different look on this. And you can see the difference there between the SED and the BSD full. Really can see the geometry here. I like this one because it's you've got the substructures here, here, and here, but over here you've got the substructure here. This little one over here. He's so cute. Oh, and here you've got this N-2 copper patch, and they tend to be this shape. Okay? Very, very specific shape for these bits of copper that I think are attached to the N-2 level. And I believe that these go in at this angle because the n-2 on the other side might be punching through, and that's what's pulled it down sideways on. See the carbon deposit underneath here? So this is a very close-up of what we were talking about in the video yesterday, in my view. Let's go. Is it going to let me? Yeah. I think this is a very, very important shape. We're going to see that again and again on these structures. Lots going on in this shot. But again, we've got a broken one part of the way down its side. This one part of the way down its side, it's got material coming out. I believe that this is because of the n-2. Sorry, n-1 rather. Again, on this one, that might just be detritus. Here's the bit probably from the n-2 here. And again, here, this will, either this one or this one is from the n-2. The n-1 rather. Oh God, I get it right. n-1. I'm confusing myself now. I'm getting tired. Yeah, here, n-1, breach point. This might be the n-1 breach point here. I don't know whether that is on, no, there's the n-1 breach point, probably there on that one. Probably here on this one. So it does imply that essentially it could just be mostly two. Here's your little fleck on the side of this one. And subtor is breaching through there. A nice collection here. These ones, which you'll see also, and I'll talk about this on the DZI, Deep Zoom image, I think they end up with this one looking like it's interspersing with it because the substructures inside, at least one of them, is still highly active and it ends up rearranging the material. It's really nice because they're all roughly the same quantization here. But look how that's eaten into the material. Look at that. It's really burrowed in. This is a cavity. This isn't actually carbon so much as it's chewed into the material. Again, this is chewed into the material. You can see this is a hole. It's a cavity. Ah, it's a lovely pair here, but this one has it's it's like internals are spilling out. That's under different illumination. Very nice. Very good 5-micron structure there. 5 microns. Very clean. You can actually see how probably this is the, if you call it a pole, this would be the south pole, and it's curving up and it's kind of flat on the top there. So you see the difference between the SED and the BSD. Get to see the geometry. That's a mix. Now, here's one where it's spilling the material. You literally see the sides broken out and it's just poured its guts out. Here, one breaking through. This one's rather nice. You can see how deeply it's burrowed in here, firstly. It's really gouged into the copper oxide. And then it's spilling its guts here, which it would have been lovely to have the SEM on this, but you can see you've got a bit of a vortical type emission here, and that's the head of it. Another section over here. breaking through over here, possibly. This one's kind of spilt its guts, but it looks like it's more of the background material to a degree. Here's our shape, and this is interesting because it's almost like a shield, these shapes that get stuck to the outside of the n-1, but it looks like the n-1 tour is actually the subtour, and its associated material is actually broken through as well. Is this the n-1 shield here, which is broken? Don't know. Now this is obviously this is an Oreo, but you can see the Oreo has its n-2 hole here. It's the n-2 hole in my view, and that's the light matter. This might be silver, whereas the other one's copper, but I think this is very bright, so it might be silver. But that's, in my view, the n-2, and this is the n-2 on this one, if they were in a bigger structure. Now, this is a little bit concerning here. This is burrowing into a crack. Okay? It's burrowing into a crack. Okay? Now, was the crack there before? Here, we've got another one that's burrowing into a crack. Only the thing is, and not this one. I like this one. It's actually spilt its guts from this top corner, and it's kind of spewed out, and it's gone round in this little shape here for whatever reason. I think this is actually, this part here is the n-2. That's a whole debris field. Lots going on there. That's that structure we just looked at up there. That's the one I gave a picture for you guys. I rather like this one because it's spilling its guts here, but whatever came out grew into this beautiful flower. This one's clean broken in half. This one had a really bad day. Quite a lot going on in here, lots of Oreos. This is quite nicely formed and half in. And here we have another Oreo, but I think probably this one or this one is where the n-2 is. Now this, I think, is the internals, right? And you can see, oh, where have I got that? I got the actual shot. Oh, I'll show you. Oh, there it is. That might be the internal or in here that's come out the top. And you're really seeing the pinch point here. And you're going to see a couple of these turn up. And they're actually in the one that I shared, the deep zoom image. You can really see the vortex on this coming into the point here and coming into the point here. So the vortex is going around that way. Now, here is another example of a channel. It's not the best channel because it's been backfilled. It almost looks like a lumpy poo, for better of a description, but I think that's exactly what it is. It's material that's been through an exotic vacuum object, and it might have a certain amount of different elements in there. It might even have different elements on the edge here. It certainly looks like it. But when we go to the larger tract here, you can see that it looks like it's associated with this one. Okay, this is carbon here, so this is likely the material coming out of the back end. We can see its substructures are coming through, but the channel may or may not be formed by, but it looks like it's backfilled. And this actually has been observed something similar with Parkhomov. So, and here is a beautiful, beautiful example of the carbon filaments first observed by Takaaki Matsumoto. And you can see it comes all the way out, and it's come from the inside. Did it come from the Oreo? Don't know. But certainly it's come from the inside. So you can see that it's spiraling. And so you can see there is coherent matter that is spiraling, and then it becomes normal matter. Yeah, so I think I go and blow that up actually. So this is a full frame shot of this. So I've got this in ridiculous res. Get rid of my mugshot. It's too good for my mugshot. A whole bunch of stuff. How did that fit in there? Don't know. But there's a little cutie down here. Look at that. That's the central core. There's another one over here. This one's totally messed up. But here's a very clear. So this is an Oreo. You see it's about 5 microns across. This would be possibly the pair of that Oreo. Okay. But here, that, in my view, is the n-2. So if we take the Oreo itself as the representation of the n-1 structure, this, in my view, is the n-2 breach point, and this material was attached to the n-2. So, and I imagine this is a lot of hot, heavy material. I was really annoyed that I didn't have the SED working on this one. Again, up here, this might be the actual n-2 structure with the material coming out the side of it. Let's do that. Okay. This one is a big blob out the side. Oh, here's our shield again. So this is the n-2. So n-1 rather in this case. Hold on, let me just check. That's 8. That's 10 microns. So anyway, it's the subtors disruption beam punching through with a shield-like shape. I need to understand or get to grips with why it's this particular shape. Maybe people can come up with ideas. Lots of synthesized material. We actually saw this on Allen's. This is one of the things I did find again, but on Allen's I didn't do the SEM on this material, EDS rather, and in this case I didn't have the EDS to do it. However, that being said, this will be the blend of all of the elements typically that come out of stellar synthesis. Okay. Oh, this is lovely braided structure. Look at this. Spewing out. Really like it. And that was at this point here. A whole bunch of stuff coming out of this one. This is a pair, and it's just got a lot of mess that it's left. It's really churned up the environment around it. That's a close-up on it, and you can see how it's breached here, and this material has come out of it. I wish I could have looked at this. Now I'm going to talk about these kind of structures. I think they're incredibly special, and like I say, I'll talk about them in a separate video. Here's our kind of like lopsided heart structure. Again, we have this is interesting because I almost can't believe this is in here. So I think these are kind of a pair. But look at the core coming out of this. That's a core, is it? I don't know. But look at this little beauty over here. This really looks like a yo-yo to me, like a classic yo-yo over here. Is it going to let me zoom in there? It really looks like a classic yo-yo. And I actually zoom into it here. Look at that. And I think the pinch point is in there. That's the effectively like a black hole area. Nice little Oreo, a little bit expanded. This one's got a bunch of just stuff stuck on the outside. Ah, there's another one. Even better look at it. So it really looks like a classic kind of old style yo-yo to me. Yeah, Tammy, it really does look like a yo-yo. Makes you think where these forms actually came from. This one's died in a bad way. Look at this one, beautiful. You've got your yin and your yang structure. When this died, the internal just this is one of these yo-yos is walking outside of it. It's coming through, literally caught in the act. Didn't quite make it to freedom. This pair here, one's expanded more than the other, but look at the carbon that they've deposited. There's no doubt in my mind that the carbon in Binger and Huang's system is coming from synthesis. Lots going on here. Lots of substructures. Oh, here's a nice channel. Not conclusive what made it, but it's a nice even sort of channel here. Again, substructure is breaching. This is an N minus. So if this is our N structure that's formed this stuff, this would be an N minus 1 structure. And so would this be an N minus 1 structure? This material here is from the breach point of the N minus 2 spewing its material out. Okay? That is my view. So I think by further study, we can find, by looking at N minus 2 breach points, we can find out what these elements are. And it could be copper. It tends to be copper on the outside. That's the source material. But this could be, let's say, iron. I don't know. We need to just do more study. Now, this is very interesting because this is a crack, and the crack is going through the structure, which means that this crack happened after this structure was formed. And given the fact that this structure must have been formed, in my view, in the cavitation process, that means that these cracks formed in the copper, at least in the copper oxide, after the cavitation process had started. So this is extremely informative. Extremely informative. I took a position of where that was because it's so significant. Again, look at these little shield structures. There's a little shield one here and a little shield on here, stuck to the sides. Now, I love this pair here. I love this pair because they have the strings of synthesized material, and this one is literally going through the substructure breach point, in my view, and coming out. And I'm wondering whether it isn't these kind of filaments that bind the yin and the yang together. They're like, they help bind them together. And I'm wondering whether that's the thing that we see in that one that's in air between the ultrasonic horn and the flat metal plate with the organic compound that's in air, the video that I shared. This, for me, is one of the most special images that I was able to take this week. It really, really tells a story. Now, is this the breach point here and this the breach point here? I don't know. This one's chewed up so much I can't tell. This one's more consistent, so you can see it's kind of around about 50% round the radius of the structure, and so this would make sense that this would be the n-1 breach point, and so the carbonaceous rich filament is coming out of that. Are you saying these strings floating in air? They could be. I think it might be these things that actually maybe interact with materials as they're traveling around. Now, these two shots are the ones that I actually built the title slide for. This one, yeah. Here is another breach point of an n-1 and a braided structure coming out, but this time it's in carbon, and I've got it in a SED mix, I think it is. What is it? Mix 55% now. So I think this is coming out like so. Here's the former head of the structure. There's a subtor coming out here, and it's interesting because it even has the shield here. Maybe it's broken off a bit, but I think this is coming from the n-1 and it's spewing out. I like this one here because it has a very small substructure hiding there, and I actually do a better image of that. Honest, there we go. Really looking in close at this structure here. So look at this, it's 2 microns across, 2 microns. So this is the same type of structure, in my view, that it was forming the braided pattern that we showed you earlier, which we'll look at to close out in a few seconds. So we've got a breach point here with the start of a helical carbonaceous structure spewing out. Breach point here. This is just a total mess. Oh, here's one of our yo-yos here. That's a hole. Okay. Oh, I like this as well because you actually have the braided structure wrapped round a substructure there. Very, very clearly defined. Vol-au-vent more like than the Oreo there. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the title, the main image of the day, which was our strange radiation track here. So in summary, for me, this particular image here settles the debate about why ball lightning behaves the way it does, strange radiation behaves the way it does, and what it can do is just amazing. It's practically instantaneous. Could it be that the polarization is because of these bands? I don't know, maybe. But anyway, there it is. And this is in an 8K, this image. So very large, and I think this is the one that did the business. It's not a lone wolf, as it were. We also showed that the substructure here, this might be like the yo-yo type level structure, because actually it's a bit bigger. This one's 4 microns across, but the actual side, these are 2 microns, I think. I don't know, it's about three microns. It might be around about 2 or 3. It's got stuff wrapped around it, so. And this sub-braid here tells an amazing story. So that is it for me tonight. I need to go to bed. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to have a quick look to see if we've got any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to call it a night. So strange radiation is EVOs escaping EVOs. Yes, I think that's basically it. Lithnic, you've got it. Phil, yes. EBB, you are a bit late. About as late as you could be. Malcolm, I'm very happy you could join us. You can see here exactly the beast that we are dealing with. When I saw this, I've imagined this in my head for years and years. And each piece of data that came in, it was like, it's not really doing it for me. I can't, that people won't just intuitively get it. But I think this piece of data here and similar data that we have and that we will find, along with everything we've shared over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, for me, it totally nails it. It's settled. These things are able to do this, and people need to accept it. It's a pleasure, David. And he says, thanks for the detective work. It is my honor, pleasure, and my duty. So yeah, we burn stuff, says my husband and I made tinfoil hats and I swear it felt better. There we go. There we go. So I expect everyone to wear a tinfoil hat. Which is not tin, it's normally aluminium. Does water slow the strange radiation just like slow water breed? No, I don't think it does. I think the water is food for strange radiation. I think, as Shishkin correctly said, and as is made clear by the evidence that I've been sharing last week and this week, and the week before, in combination with stuff we shared over the years, changes in impedance, specifically changes from strong conductor to insulator or dielectric, those are the things that force the thing to both become excited and then to travel along a metal and basically overeat and get stuck, basically. The braids look like the smoke monster from Lost. Yes, well, I guess it might do, yeah. Corky says this is alchemy. Yes, it is alchemy. It is. Alchemy is real. It always was. It's a fact of nature. And all these people that say, yes, all of the atoms that were ever born, or like, because I believe very firmly that fresh protons can be made from this and synthesized, that there's got to be a lot of revisiting about how elements are made in the universe. There's some ridiculous theories out there that require, I never understood that if things are made in a supernova process or in a collapsing black hole gravity, two black holes coming together and that kind of gravity situation, how, if all of these elements are synthesized as single elements or whatever, how they end up as a lump of gold or a block of iron. To me, it made more sense, that there was some process that would create a block of things. And this is what this does. It creates lumps of stuff. So, Product of Jack says, what are the next steps in getting the amazing work recognized in the world? I don't really worry about those things. For me, it's just, I'd rather there is a good quorum of people that know it and can spread the word. And I think really it's a case of, like, they'll keep denying it until they're using a product and they'll still won't know what's driving the product. So I think it's funny because, where I have a huge amount of respect for Malcolm is whatever anyone says about him, he's a doer and he makes things happen. And those people are very few and far between. And, we would like everyone to be perfect. I know for certain I am not a perfect person. So there are those that would sit on the sidelines and point fingers. But are they doing anything? I'm doing what I possibly can to make this realized within all reasonable limits. There is something that everyone can do. And, it is difficult to spread this because I know how hard it is. When I realized at the beginning of 2017, and with the presentation put together by early 2018, I knew it would take 5 or 6 years to get enough evidence to make the argument of what seemed obvious back then. And of course, a lot of it was a remote view download to a degree. So I never worried about the evidence coming up because it was already there in this record, both the scientific record and the historical and record with the use of geometry and architecture and so on. It had to be true. It was the only thing that made sense with all of the different sources of information. It had to be a particular structure. It looked like it was this structure. And so everything would come eventually. Or I'm just really lucky. Really, really lucky. Thank you very much, Lithnick, also for your super chat earlier. That really helps. Okay, I'm going to call it a day. I'll try and go through your chat and answer some questions. Phil DeBus says, so can I use EVOs to clear my perpetually clogged sinuses? Well, yeah, if you really want to. As I said, if you're not, Tesla identified beryllium, magnesium, and aluminium as producing clear, non-dirty etheric matter rays. If you've got steel or you've got copper, not sure you want to be breathing those in. That's my view. I'm still not comfortable with that. I'm just saying, I'm not comfortable with that. But I'm pretty comfortable that the kind of shield that I have shown, there's a logical reason why that would work. There's a logical, easy to comprehend reason when you see things like this, like that, like that. So I will be doing a video on what your Jonathan Berry says. Evo and Chi aren't inherently a different thing. This is at one level life force energy. I will be looking at Chi and life force in a different video, specifically on aspects that could have impacts on health. I've done it a little bit in the past, but specific logical understanding of how I'm personally going to choose to move forward with my life. And I've been doing a lot of it anyway, but there's things that I've learned having watched these creatures at work that I've learned a lesson from them. And I think there's something that we can explore going forward. I'm going to do that in another video. So thank you, Vanilla Isis. That's very kind of you for your gift. That's really kind. Right. So Bob was, are you glowing from drinking Evo water? There are certain things that I do which I didn't realize the huge importance of, and I'm going to do more of them. And so I will talk about those things. I'll talk about a general rule that one can apply. And there's some difficult things that people have to grasp with what people have done in the past. And it also makes logical sense why they have done that. But you don't need to do that. You can do this in a human positive way. And so I want to address that separately with a proper made presentation. I don't want to blurt out things now. I have spoken to Dan Winter at length. Yes, Matthew Reynolds. Sprightly Sprout says, found your work and videos on the ball lightning Vietnamese student. I'm specialized school for science. Just wanted to drop by and say my thanks. Your videos. Oh, that's very kind. I think with Vietnam's population reaching 100 million and lots of vibrant energy in that country. Obviously, my wife is Vietnamese. There's a huge future ahead for Vietnam, and you're living in a very agrarian society, water culture society. So there's lots that you do right by default as part of your culture, and so that's why there's such a healthy population generally there. Don't pick up the bad habits of the West. That's all I can say. Thank you, David Studbauer. That's very kind. All right. So I'm going to call it a night. Thank you for everyone. Thank you for the super chats. And we have a new understanding. And this little baby here, this did it for me. And it is clearly the yin-yang, as we can see here, a vortex and an anti-vortex. And these pair up and they quantize at different levels, but they can consume matter and spit it out, and the substructures can also consume matter and spit them out. It is a fractal toroidal structure and arguably the maker of life in itself, also being clearly a life form in all meaningful sense. This is O. Buenas noches. Dobro noc. Good night.